History hunters, and welcome back to the channel. Ever heard of a US state that existed, had its own government, a governor, and then just vanished from the map? Sounds like something out of a mystery novel, right? Well, today we're diving deep into a real-life historical head-scratcher, the forgotten state of Franklin. Buckle up, because we're about to uncover 10 key facts about this state that almost was. So, where exactly was this mysterious state? Imagine the map of the United States right after the Revolutionary War. What we know today as Tennessee didn't quite exist in the same way. In 1784, the land that would become the state of Franklin was actually the western frontier part of North Carolina, think eastern Tennessee today. It was wild, rugged territory, home to settlers carving out a life far from the established eastern towns. These weren't city folks, they were pioneers living on the edge of the known American world. Keep that image in mind, because it's crucial to understanding why they did what they did next. Now, why would these settlers suddenly decide to break away and form their own state? Well, it boils down to money and feeling abandoned. North Carolina, like many states after the war, was broke. To help pay off its debts to the new federal government, North Carolina decided to give away its western lands, the very lands where our settlers lived. Imagine hearing that news. The settlers felt ignored and unprotected. They worried that the distant federal government wouldn't care about their needs or defend them from Native American attacks. Their solution: if North Carolina won't govern us, and the feds are too far away, we'll govern ourselves. And just like that, the idea for a new state was born. Every new state needs a name, right? The settlers chose Franklin. Why? They wanted to honor Benjamin Franklin, scientist, inventor, diplomat, founding father superstar. They figured naming it after him might win his support and help them get recognized by Congress. A clever political move, or so they thought. Here's the twist, though: despite the honor, Benjamin Franklin never actually supported their movement. He acknowledged the gesture but politely stayed out of the whole messy affair. So, they named their state after a founding father hoping for backup, but that backup never came. Ouch. This lack of big-name support hinted at a major problem. The state of Franklin set up its own government, wrote a constitution, elected officials. They were acting like a state in every way. But here's the kicker: the United States Congress never officially recognized Franklin as a state. So you have this region operating independently, making laws, collecting taxes, or trying to, but in the eyes of the rest of the newly formed United States, it didn't officially exist. Can you imagine the confusion? This lack of recognition would be a major hurdle. Even finding a permanent home for their government was tricky. Initially, the unofficial capital of Franklin was Jonesboro, a town that still exists today and is Tennessee's oldest. Later, the government functions moved to Greenville, another town you can visit in modern Tennessee. Think about that, a state government moving from town to town. It shows how unstable and uncertain things were for Franklin. They were building something new, but the foundations were constantly shifting. Every movement needs a leader, and for the state of Franklin, that man was John Sevier. He was a respected figure on the frontier, a Revolutionary War hero, famous for the Battle of Kings Mountain, and the people elected him as Franklin's first and only governor. Sevier was at the heart of Franklin's story. He led the new government, navigated the political challenges, and became the face of this breakaway state. His leadership was key, but even he couldn't overcome the forces working against Franklin. Now, remember how North Carolina gave away the land? Well, plot twist. They changed their minds. Pretty quickly, North Carolina regretted ceding the territory and decided they wanted it back. They repealed the Cession Act and reasserted their claim over the region. This is where things got really messy. Suddenly, you had North Carolina saying, "This is still our land," and the state of Franklin saying, "Nope, we're independent now." This led to huge political tension, arguments, and even some minor armed clashes between supporters of Franklin and supporters of North Carolina. Talk about drama. The conflict created a bizarre situation. For a few years, the region basically had two governments operating at the same time, in the same place. You had Franklin officials trying to run things, and North Carolina officials trying to run things. Imagine getting tax demands from two different governments. Or trying to figure out which court had real authority. It was chaotic and confusing for the settlers caught in the middle. Who was really in charge? This couldn't last forever. And it didn't. By 1789, the state of Franklin experiment came to an end. Why did it fail? It was a mix of things. There were deep divisions among the settlers themselves, not everyone supported independence. The lack of federal recognition hurt them badly. And relentless political and sometimes military pressure from North Carolina eventually wore them down. John Sevier was even arrested for treason by North Carolina at one point, though he was later rescued and eventually pardoned. The dream of an independent Franklin was over. So, Franklin disappeared from the map, eventually becoming part of the new state of Tennessee in 1796, with John Sevier as its first governor. But even though it was short-lived, the state of Franklin is more than just a weird footnote. It tells us a fascinating story about the struggles of the early United States. It shows the challenges of governing remote territories, the tensions between states and settlers, and the messy process of nation-building after independence. It's a reminder that the map of the USA wasn't always set in stone and that carving out a nation involved ambition, conflict, and sometimes, failure. What a story, right? So, there you have it, 10 key facts about the lost state of Franklin. Did you know about this chapter of American history? What other forgotten histories should we hunt down next? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into the past, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the History Hunt, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration. Thanks for watching, History Hunters, and we'll see you on the next hunt.